I've been having a fun time trying to get this episode out to you. Let me freaking tell ya. Howdy everyone, it's Sam. Welcome back to Wobble Enjoy Sports. If you're new around here, hope I can get you to consider to like the content and subscribe to the channel. But if you are a regular around these here parts, thank you very much for the continuous support. Let's look at the Penrith Panthers 2025 fixture. And the Panthers, they have 5 home grounds as they're going for the 5-peat in 2025. 5 home grounds, 5-peat, 2025. Well, that's the biggest friggin' omen of all time. Pack it up. That's the omen. Good night. Congratulations, Penrith. Good night. Penrith Panthers pre-season starts pretty interestingly. So it begins this Saturday. They take on the Canberra Raiders at Shark Park. Team lists are due to be announced later on the Savo. What's interesting about the Panthers pre-season is, however, the other 3 Las Vegas teams in the Sharks, the Wars, and the Raiders, they're all playing next week. Panthers are not. The Penrith Panthers are playing in the 3rd week of the preseason on February the 21st, Friday the 21st of Feb. And they're taking on Manly at Leichhardt Oval that day. So it begs the question, are we about to see a full strength team list today? Probably not going to see Dylan Edwards, possibly not Isaiah Yeo, but there's a chance that the Panthers will actually play a full strength team this weekend against the Canberra Raiders, with the team list to be announced today, or they're really needing a challenge and they want to go full strength on the 21st of Feb, and then the week after they play in Las Vegas. I doubt that's what's going to happen, but that's just interesting to note about the Panthers preseason. They're the only team in the Las Vegas games that have their final preseason match happen in week 3 on the 21st of Feb, whereas the other 3 teams, Sharks, Warriors, and Raiders, are going to be flying overhead saying, well, we'll see you next week, guys, or in 2 weeks. Now, let's get into the season proper for the Panthers, and they do take on Cronulla at Allegiant Stadium in Las Vegas. That is Sunday, 2:30 p.m. for Queenslanders. Then they have the week off, like all the other Las Vegas teams do. They take on the Eastern Suburbs Friday night from CommBank Stadium. They're then on the road in round 3 for part 1 of the grand final rematch. There is part 2 coming later on this season, but part 1, Thursday night football in round 3, they're down in Amy Park. Round number 4, they're on the road, but it's only just sort of around the block. They're playing South Sydney at Accor Stadium on Thursday night footy. And then round 5, they host the North Queensland Cowboys, who are due to get their first win at CommBank Stadium Friday, 6 p.m, 5th of April. Book it in, lock it in. That first 5 weeks for Panthers, yeah, they're the champions. They're the best team that we've seen in 40 years thereabouts. But that's still a tough start for the Penrith Panthers in 2025. Section 2 for the Penrith Panthers begins with back-to-back away games. They take on the Dolphins at Suncorp Stadium for Thursday night footy. Then they come back to Sydney and take on the Roosters at Allianz Stadium for Saturday night football. Round number 8, they are at CommBank Stadium again the day after Anzac Day. They host the Sea Eagles. In round number 9, they're taking a home game to Suncorp for Magic Round, and they're hosting the Brisbane Broncos in what is shaping up to be the game of the weekend. That's going to be an absolute beauty. In round number 10, they remain in Queensland. They're zipping up even further up north to take on the North Queensland Cowboys for Saturday night footy. So in this 5-week stretch, they're in Queensland 3 times, one of them being up in Townsville, and then they take on the Roosters and Manly, respectively. Again, that is, regardless of them being the champions, that's still a pretty tough stretch in my opinion. Part 3 for 2025, they have their first bye in round number 11. In round 12, in the split round, they take a game out to Carrington Park, Bathurst. The Newcastle Knights are the opponents. and this game will be Origin affected. So the Bathurst locals are saying thank you very much for the B-string sort of affair. But that game is taking place Saturday, 5:30 p.m. 1 week later, they're back at CommBank Stadium. They take on the Parramatta Eels on Sunday afternoon footy, a few days after Game 1 of State of Origin up at Suncorp. So hard to say if any Origin representatives will be backing up for either side. In round number 14, this is arguably the most anticipated game of 2025. Jerome Luai's West Tigers takes on the Penrith Panthers at CommBank Stadium. A bonus for Penrith being that it is at CommBank. They're home for the next 2 to 3 years. So that is an extra home game that they do have in West Sydney. That is, again, Channel 9 Sunday afternoon footy. They then, to round out part 3 for 2025, have their second bye for the season. That is a little lighter so far as strength of opposition goes, in my opinion, with all due respect. But that game against the West Tigers is going to have massive media attention. Even the week before, even if Origin stars are not playing, it's going to be the Panthers up against the Parramatta Eels at CommBank Stadium. But yeah, that's a better run, but still playing the Newcastle Knights without your Origin stars at Bathurst, even though Newcastle will be without their Origin stars, that's still going to be tricky for them as well. And the ex-teammate matches keep on coming to kick off part 4 for the Penrith Panthers. They travel to New Zealand to take on the New Zealand Warriors Saturday 3 p.m. footy, and it's James Fisher-Harris up against his old side. The unfortunate part about this is that what I mentioned in the New Zealand Warriors episode is this is a few days after the Perth State of Origin game, and the likes of a Cleary, a Yeo, Mitch Barnett maybe won't be playing in this game. So that's a bit of a tragedy, but still, James Fisher-Harris up against his old club. It's going to be awesome to see. Round number 17, this is going to be a fully loaded game. Panthers versus Bulldogs, Thursday night footy. They then have their third and final bye for 2025 in round 18. And to round out part 4, they take on the Parramatta Eels at CommBank Stadium, Channel 9 Sunday afternoon footy. I think they might be dropping a game or two in this one for sure. The other section, maybe not, but I can see them dropping a game potentially against the New Zealand Warriors in this one, and maybe even against the Parramatta Eels, because that game is happening a few days after Game 3, State of Origin in Sydney. Well, I reckon the Penrith Panthers are going to be alive and kicking come finals, but what does their run to the finals actually look like? It begins with back-to-back home games. They take on South Sydney Friday night footy. 1 week later, they take on Jerome Luai for a second time this year for Saturday twilight footy at CommBank Stadium. They're then on the road back-to-back weeks against the Gold Coast Titans on a Saturday arvo, and then the Newcastle Knights up in the Hunter Valley at Friday 6 p.m. And for round 24 and round 25, they have back-to-back home games. They take on the Storm, and this is their final home game at CommBank Stadium for the season, Penrith Panthers. That's a Thursday night footy game, and their final actual technical home game of 2025 is down at Glen Willow Oval in Mudgee. They host the Canberra Raiders Friday 6 p.m. They're getting countryside big time in 2025. In round 26 and round 27, they're on the road back-to-back weeks to round out their season. Round 26, they take on the Dogs at Accor Stadium, Thursday night footy, and the final game of the home and away regular season is against the Dragons down at Wynn Stadium in Wollongong. And that one, if the Panthers find themselves in a top 3 position, why wouldn't they? They might as well rest half of their squad just about. So that might actually work in the favour of the Dragons, but we'll wait and see. As so far as their run to the finals, the opposition that they're taking on, Titans, Knights, Canberra Raiders, West Tigers, I have to throw in there with all due respect. Half of those Dragons, half of those teams, man, they can very easily account for. You'd say that the Melbourne Storm and the South Sydney Rabbitohs, and to a lesser degree, only a cog, the Bulldogs game, those are the matches that they'll have some difficulty with, but that run to the finals is pretty freaking sweet for the Panthers, man. Seriously, I know that it's going to be difficult for Panthers, maybe initially, to adjust to their new surrounds at CommBank Stadium, But the teams that they're taking on twice in 2025, if you're a Panthers fan, in my opinion, you should be laughing a bit. You take on Storm twice, yeah, sure. You take on South Sydney, you take on North Queensland as well, twice. But other than that, it's really not too bad of a draw, bro. It's quite nice for the perennial champions, the 4-peat champions, going for a 5-peat. Their toughest portion of the year is the first half, absolutely. And then they do have to contend with Origin. But that run to the finals really, it doesn't quite do it, but it does level things out quite a fair bit. Not fully, because that start to the year is pretty intense for the Panthers, but they got some high profile games, and I think they're a massive chance of doing the 5-peat. Thank you very much for your continuous support, guys. I'm up for some new technology. My freaking microphone is, well, I bought it for $100. It's probably worth about $30 actually. But anyway, I've got to go get myself a new mic. So apologies for the audio. But I'll get back to formula as soon as I friggin' can. See you guys in the next episode. Thank you. Take care. Adios. #riding high 2025.